Hi, everyone. Welcome to my course, Servant Leadership Lessons from Middle Earth. I'm really happy to be sharing this with you because we are almost in the home stretch. I wanted to start by giving a little bit of context about the course and why I created it. I work for the federal government, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, we had a lot of people in roles that put them in a leadership position that they weren't necessarily prepared for. They didn't know or think of themselves as leaders. There wasn't a lot of soft skill support to help them in this new experience that they were having that kind of made them uneasy. So I thought it would be fun to take that need and combine it with one of my favorite stories, which is Lord of the Rings, and see how we could take the elements of servant leadership that are presented in that work and put it into a middle leadership focus on servant leadership. So, the average learner in this course is probably going to be anywhere from 30 to about 55 years old. Their technology experience would be probably pretty varied, but what they would have access to at work would be Microsoft Teams, PowerPoint, internet access, and things along that line. They're likely familiar with leadership, but looking at it from more of a top down lens, middle leadership and servant leadership isn't something that's really been emphasized in a federal government, more top down approach. So, my goal with this course is that by the end of it, the people attending would be able to embrace new and unexpected leadership roles and the responsibilities given to them by integrating elements of servant leadership, because that's really the where you lead from the middle. And as they complete the modules, they'd be recognizing 5 common myths of leadership, summarizing key qualities of a servant leader, determining how leadership examples from The Lord of the Rings relate to Robert Greenleaf's 10 principles of servant leadership, and finally finishing with applying the principles of servant leadership to their own leadership roles. Looking at some engagement strategies, I really liked what Rise allowed me to do in terms of making something that was easily accessible in terms of technology, very interactive. So I utilized the slideshow to show the myths of leadership and also an interactive hotspot kind of a photograph to introduce people to the 10 principles of leadership. Rather than having them read through a lengthy article on this, they can just click on each of these hotspots and the principle and the definition will appear. So the first assignment goes back to the objective of defining the principles of servant leadership, but taking it a step further and applying those to themselves. So the learners will reflect on a time they could have used servant leadership principles but did not, and will write a reflective essay on that. They'll then go through and complete a 15-question knowledge check to reinforce their concepts from Module 1. Then in Module 2, we get into some fun stuff with Lord of the Rings. We have some flipping interactives here to talk about 3 of the main characters that really exhibit qualities of servant leadership. And this module supports the objective on how to relate Lord of the Rings characters to the principles of servant leadership. Students will be provided with a mix of readings and videos to familiarize them with the characters as well as how they embody servant leadership. Module three's assignment lets the students take all of the resource information and apply that to the discussion, which asks them to analyze the characters and how they particularly exercise servant leadership on the class Padlet. And finally, for Module 3, there'll be a recap of the information presented, and the final